Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to this, our first DGL Lunch and Learn webinar. My name is Stephen and I'm joined today by David, our Service Delivery Team Leader. In today's webinar, David will be taking you through reporting within DGL. If you have any questions during the session, you should be able to see a questions box on your screen. You can pop your questions in here and we'll take some time at the end to go through them. Worth noting that all the webinars that we do now and into the future will be recorded and shared with all of our customers afterwards. They will also live on our YouTube channel, which you can find via our website. That's it from me. David, are you ready to go? I'll pass over.
Yep, all ready to go.
Cool. Should get that now.
Yep. Hopefully everyone will be able to see that now.
Yeah.
Perfect. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining today. So just going to run through the reporting within Practice Manager. Practice Manager is quite a reporting rich facility within the system. It's something that it can do quite a lot within different screens. So first of all, I'm just going to just run through the individual menus and the main reports you can do within that menu you're in. So if we head into the patient menu, you'll see that you've also got the patient reports option just here. That then expands out into various other screens that you've got options to click on within the reports option in this system here. Just worth noting, the ones with the light bulbs next to it are usually the most common ones to use, or the best ones to head towards if you're ever unsure where to head towards first. So the general rule of thumb is that whatever menu you're clicked within, the report screen will be relevant to that screen. So for example, the patient menu will be sort of relevant to the patient demographic side of things. The list menu will be sort of relevant to the theatre list and clinic list appointments. Billing is sort of what you put on an invoice, any procedures, consultations. Accounts is more sort of like your accounting, so how much invoices you've raised in the year, what outstanding debt you have within the year, and so on and things like that. So we're just going to click into the first screen. So we're going to click on the patient analysis report. Now, as soon as we click into that, it defaults to the month that you're currently within. So you can see at the top here, the start and end date are set to the 1st of April to the 30th of April. Now, this report is doing it on the basis of patients added between, and then the date range is here. So if you wanted to report on your whole demographic of patient data, instead of putting in a date range, what you can do is click on the little preset dates button just at the top here. And if we click on here, it gives you various different options. So you can do include all dates, which would be your whole patient demographic. If you wanted to do like current financial year, last 12 months, current year, things like that are also available. Or if you prefer, you can just either click the calendar options to preset the dates in there, or you can pre-type the dates into it as well if you needed to. So let's just say if I wanted to run this report based on my whole patient demographic, I will click on the preset dates button and then click down to include all dates. So this would then populate all my patients within the system that has been added. It will give you a little count down the bottom here. So for example, in the system that I'm currently on at the moment, it's got 1,209 patients currently registered within the system. So that's giving you like a little patient count just so you know how many patients are on your system at the time. Then what you can also do is then start drilling down into specific information within this report. Now, this type of report, if you come across them, they're what we classed as flexi reports. So it means they're fairly flexible in what you can report on, what you can put into the report, and what you can take out of the report. So in its current state, this is what's on the report at the moment. However, if I wanted to change or update this report, I can do this quite easily by clicking on the Show Hide button just down the bottom here. So if I click on that, it will then bring up a customized box you'll see here. So these fields are sort of relevant to the patient demographics or patient details screen of what you're adding for a patient. So there's various different options you can add into this report as well now. So if I was to say, for example, bring in their email address for patients into this report, if I left click on the email option just there and hold my left click down, I just then need to just drag it up into the report at the top here, and you'll see those two green arrows appear. When you see them, that means you can then release your mouse click. That will then put that field into the report. If you want to position it a bit further along within the report, again, if you just move it in between the fields, you'll see the 2 green arrows appear when you move it in between the 2 fields in the system. So if I now release my mouse click, let's say the email option was the only one I wanted on there, I can then close that customized box if I need to. And you'll see that then populates the email addresses for the patients. Then what you might be asking also, you'll see that a lot of the patients haven't got emails against them. That again will just come down to data entry. If you're not recording that information into Practice Manager, again, it can't populate that on the reports for you. Vice versa, if you want to take a field off a report, if you feel that field isn't necessary, you don't need to see it, it's not relevant to the report you're doing. Again, fairly similar, click on the show hide option. Let's say, for example, I don't want the date of birth on there. I can again just left click on that date of birth, hold the left click down, and then just move it into that customized box just over here, and then release my mouse click. And that will then remove it off the report for me. Then once you've got the relevant report you want on screen, again, you can start drilling down even further to filter out different things. So if you wanted to populate the ages by just patients that are age 1 or 0, if you wanted to just filter it by insurers, just patients that are registered with Bupa. If you want to filter it by male or female, let's say if I just want to just see all my female patients, again, that will then filter out just my female patients on that system. Again, it gives us a little countdown here as well. So there's 631 females on this system. If I then want to remove that filter so that the whole report comes back again, you'll see you've got a little cross down the bottom here, which is just showing you that it's filtered by sex equals female. So if I just click the cross on that, that will then remove the filter for me so all the patients come back. Now, if you want to export the report, again, you'll sometimes see those export buttons at the top here. So you can export it to Excel, XML, CSV. You can email it as an MSX file. Also, you can also print these reports off in here as well. And what you sometimes find, you'll sometimes get a patient button as well. So if you're clicked on, say, this patient here, for example, if I click the patient button, that will then bring up the patient details screen for that patient. Now, if you've configured the report for exactly how you want it to look, and you don't want to keep having to do that every time you click into that report, if you click on Save Layout and tick that, the next time you go into that report, the fields that you've added or taken off will remain on that report. They won't then have to be dragged back in through that Show Hide button or dragged off in future. And that will then set it for all users across the system if you've got multi-users on there. And then to close out that report, just simply click OK, and that will then take you out the screen. Vice versa, if we move on to, say, the list reports, if I go down to list and then reports, again, you've got a few more light bulbs on this one here. So you've got patients that are requesting an earlier appointment, a did not attend report, an appointment analysis report. The did not attend report, that will show you all patients that have been marked as not attended to their clinic appointment. So if we click on that, by default, it's going to take you into today's date of appointments that have been cancelled. The report on option over here, you can either do it by the date of the appointment that was made or the date the appointment was cancelled. And then you just change the date ranges within here to do that. So if I was to maybe change it to the 1st of April, for example, you'll see there was an appointment booked on the 7th of April here, but they actually cancelled on the 7th and they didn't turn up. So this report will show you things like the DNAs. If you have quite a high DNA rate, you can then sort of drill into that to see, is there a certain person that's a repeat offender, or if it's just similar age ranges, and you can sort of drill into that fact and look into it even further if you need to make any clinic changes or procedure changes when booking appointments. And then again, you've also got the Show Hide button down here to drag and drop in relevant fields for that report. Also within that list reports option, you've got appointment analysis. So if we click on that, this is any appointments that have been added into the clinic list. Again, the start and end date will generally be today's date, but you can drill into a specific date range if you want to, or you can use your preset dates at the top here. So if you want to do it for the last 12 months worth of appointments, current month, include all dates will give you all appointments, all future appointments that have been booked. If I just do a quick include all dates, what you will sometimes see is it's bringing through available slots. So if you're using things like diary templates, and that's bringing them through. If you want to just see specific patient appointments and not your availability slots, you have got the hide non-appointments option just down here, and that will then get rid of them for you. Then again, if you want to filter down, if you want to see all the appointments I've done at, say for example in this case, Buckingham Hospital, that will then show me all the appointments that have been done in that date range at the Buckingham Hospital. And then again, I can then remove that filter if I want to bring the whole demographic back again. And if I want to save that report layout, if I've made any changes to it, I've got that tick box just down here. And then also again, within that reports menu, the theatre analysis is exactly the same report. That's in regards to theatres going forward as well. Then the billing reports options. So this is anything you've added to an invoice as an item generally. So again, you've got a couple of light bulbs here again. So if we click in, say, for example, the most common operations, again, it's going to ask me for a start and end date. So this will be any appointments within that date range on the theatre list it will show you. Or again, you can use the preset dates option at the top here. So I'm just going to just do include all dates and click OK. This one is more of what we class as a fixed report. So you'll see there's no show hide button on this one. You can't really manipulate the fields too much on this report. It's kind of prefixed and does what it says on the tin. It's the most common operations report for the date range you're putting in. So again, you can see here, you can filter it by code, and then it will show you how many have been done in that date range, the total revenue you've made from that, and then the average revenue you've made from that appointment. So that's quite useful if you wanted to, you might expect to be doing a higher rate of appointments or procedures, but actually on the report it's showing you something else is a bit higher. You might then want to market the fact that we want to be doing more of them, and you can then use that as an opportunity to market your practice out there to say, oh, we're doing this operation, this is a useful one we can offer, and really sort of drive that going forward. So I click OK out of that. Again, there's various other billing reports options here. Again, if we go to operations procedures analysis report, this is kind of more in depth of the most common operations report. So if I click into this, again, I can put my start and end dates at the top here. So if I click on the calendar this time, do say 1st of April to today, or to the 30th of April, sorry. So there's only one theatre appointment showing for that date range, and it's showing you more details within that. If it's a link to an invoice number, what was on that invoice, the hospital it was done at, the patient it was for, the description, the operation code, and so on. And again, within this screen, if I'm clicked on this screen and clicked on that entry, I can then view the invoice down here for that, and it will take me into the invoice screen for that specific procedure that it's linked to. Okay, if I just click OK out of that. Then probably the most important one, if you do record your accounts in Practice Manager, like your invoices raised, your outstanding debts, things like that, this sort of area is more useful to you, especially if you look after the account side of it and chasing of debt. If we go to the accounts menu and then go down to account reports, again, you've got a couple of light bulbs in here, but the account reports option, there's various different ones you can click on, lots of different reports within here. Most important, I suppose, for most people is the outstanding invoices report. So if I click on this, again, it's going to ask me for a start and end date. So this would be based on the invoice date when it was raised. So if you wanted to know all invoices that you've raised, for example, this year that are outstanding, you would then do preset dates, current year, and that would show the outstanding invoices for that year. If you want to know all your outstanding debt since you started using the system, whether you used it a year ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Again, if you go to preset dates and then include all dates, that will then show you all your outstanding debt since you've been using the system. And again, it will show you the invoice number it's related to, the date it was raised, the patient it's related to, the invoice total, how much it was raised for, and then the most important column is how much you're due back. So if you have had any part payments, it will show it on this report, but the due column will have a total at the bottom here, showing you just how much outstanding debt you have got. It'll also show you how many weeks it's been outstanding for as well. Again, you have also got the show hide opportunity to drag and drop in different fields. Some people like to know if they are insured, who their insurance company is. So then once you've got that on the report, you can then maybe drill down into all your Bupa patients by just clicking on the drop down on insurer. Click on Bupa. That will show me all my patients that are insured with Bupa on the system. You might want to then maybe send Bupa a statement saying these are the ones we're expecting payment for that we haven't had going forward. If I click OK out of here. Again, also within that screen, you've got things like payments received report. So you can see how much payments you've received in to Practice Manager. So if I click on that, again, this is done on an invoiced income basis. So you can do it, this will be done on payment date. Again, you can put in your pre-filled dates, or you can go to preset dates, include all dates, and so on and so on. And then again, you've got that show hide option to drag and drop in different fields that you might want to going forward. Again, you've got the opportunity to export this report out to either Excel, CSV, XML, or if you want to print it from within here and print off the paper format of it, you can do. If I click OK out of that. Also, another useful report to know about, right at the very bottom of the account reports option, you have got full end of year accounts. So if I click on that, it will always come up with this little checking for blank values box. It will always do that. It just checks the database just to make sure everything's correct. Just make sure you put in the correct financial year, and then basically what that will do, that will then populate the reports down here for you based on the financial year date that you put at the top there. Again, you've got also the option to use the preset dates option over the right there. If you wanted to hide patient names for confidentiality, so if you're sending this information to an accountant, especially with GDPR these days, the less information they have that they don't need, the better. So if they don't need to necessarily know who the patient name is, they'll just need to know who the invoice number is. So you can tick that box to hide patients' names for confidentiality. And then you can then either print off the reports, or you can email the selected reports that you've got ticked on the left-hand side here. So if there's a specific report you don't want the accountants to see or they don't need to see, you can just untick them on the left-hand side there. And then if you do email selected reports, that will then link into Outlook and attach these reports in a zip file to send on to your accountants. Also, you'll also find in some of the screens, they've also got what we call the report builder option. So the report builder option is more if you want to really drill down into very specific information if you can't find a relevant report for that within Practice Manager. 9 times out of 10, there generally is a pre-built report within all these screens. If there's a specific report you're really looking for and you're looking to drill into, what you can do, depends whatever screen you want to do it from. Generally, it's best to do, if you're looking to do it, any sort of account information, use it in the account report builder option. If it's more of a patient demographic option, you do it in the patient report builder and so on. So what you'll do create new report. And this will then take you into the report builder screen. So this is more, again, very much for if you're looking to drill down in very specific information to create your own specific report. So the first screen it takes you into is the query tab. Now the query tab is what you're looking to run the report on, what query are you looking to do it based on. So the first option you'll do is click here to add a new condition. So if we click on that, by default it puts it to patient full name, but the query we're looking to run this on, if I take an example here of, I want to do the query of patients aged between, so if I click on patient demographics, and then if I then go to age, so that's now going to run my query on patients age wise. The next one is then is equal to, but if I click on that, it gives me various different options here. So if it's is equal to, that would be a specific is, say, 59. Or if it is greater than, it would be, say, if they're 40 plus, and so on. So you get the gist of how you can do it between. If I wanted to do it maybe is between, the pink options are the values. So for example, if I click on, say, is the age between 20 and 30, so this would give me a report of all the patients that are aged between 20 and 30. If I wanted to add a second condition, again, if I click on that, click here to add new condition box, it puts in a second condition. By default, it brings up that patient full name. let's say, for example, if I go down to the billing, invoices sent, and then invoice date. So this will run a query on all the patients that have had an invoice between the ages of 20 and 30. And again, I can do it to is equal to, but in this case, I'm going to do is greater than, and the pink value here would be a date range. So let's just say if I do it for 1992 as an example. So my query here is going to run on patients between the age of 20 and 30, and I've had an invoice dated that is greater than the 1st of January 1992. Then the next option you do is you click onto the Fields tab. So when you click onto the Fields tab, so this is what you want to show on your report, the columns you want to show on your report on the query you're running based on. So if I click where it says click to add new field, so the first column I want generally will be patient full name. If I then add a next column, again, it's going to put patient full name by default, but as soon as you click on that, you then get the various options you can then add in. So I'm then going to add in, I might want their date of birth to show on the report. If I click again, I might want their invoice date to show on there, just to show when they actually had the invoice. So at the moment, it's going to show me on the report I'm going to produce patient full name, date of birth, and invoice date. Now, if I click back to the query tab, I can then run a query on this. So that will then run the query of what I've got added into the option. So if I click run query now, that has now produced me a report of all patients that are aged between that date range, and also if they've had an invoice date. Now you may see that multiples have come up here. So you see here, Miss Charlotte Walsh has had 2 invoices. So you can see here she had an invoice on the 18th of November 2004 and also the 12th of March 2005, because it's run the query on what the invoice date is and also patients aged between that date. So if they've had more than one invoice, it will show you that there. If you want to group them together, so if you want patients to be grouped rather than their names being listed 5 times, if you left click on the patient name and drag it to where it says drag a column header here to group by that column. If I then release my mouse click, it will then group it via a patient name. So it will show you all their patients' information under there. If I just scroll that out a bit more, there we go. So you can see, for example here, patient full name, Claire Bethel has had 4 invoices, and these are the date ranges of them. Now, if this is a report you're going to keep running, and well, maybe you need to run once a month, you can save this. So if you go to the query field at the top here and then click Save Report, file name, we're going to call it age 20 to 30 and invoice date 01/01/1992, and click Save. So if I click OK to come out of this screen now, the next time I go to my account report builder, if I then, instead of going to create new report, I can do run existing report, and that will have my report just here. If I then click on edit, that will then take me back into that screen with everything pre-built on there, and I can just run my query from that screen. If you also wanted to change the age ranges when you come back into it, you can maybe change it to maybe in 35. You can then run it from that screen there. Okay, I think that kind of covers the main overview of reporting. There are thousands of reports within Practice Manager, and I could talk about it all day. I'd love to, but they're just the main basics of the reporting within the Practice Manager system and the functionalities within that. I don't know if I want to just hand that back over to you, Donal.
Thanks, David. We've gotten 2 questions in here from Roger. So is it possible to have the service date as standard in all the reports, as we use this a lot for our consultants?
So what was that? Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Sorry.
Is it possible to have the service date as standard in all the reports?
Not in all reports, but generally if it's service date, that would generally probably be within the accounts or billing reports. The patient menu wouldn't really record that because it's more patient demographics. But if you go into the patient reports, and whichever report you go into, you would then have to just drag and drop them into there. So service date, for example, here is already on the billing reports already on this one, pre-built in there. But if it's not on the report, you would just have to use that show hide option and drag that service date option in, and then just tick it to save the layout so it remembers it going forward. Unfortunately, there's no way to put it on all reports. Some reports just don't look at that information.
Okay, cool. And then one more question here. This user says, sometimes I struggle with downloading the reports as they can be quite large and the amount of data doesn't always come down in full. Am I doing something wrong, or is it just that the fact that the data is too large?
Yeah, probably in that one, it's probably going to be the larger the date range you do, and obviously if you've got a very heavy practice of patient turnover, it's going to include more information. What I would maybe recommend is using that show hide option to maybe pull off columns that you don't necessarily need within the report, because the more columns you have on there, the more information it's going to have to try and track down and put into maybe an Excel spreadsheet and produce. So I'd probably recommend using the show hide option just to maybe take columns off if they're not necessary, or maybe shortening the date range if it doesn't need to be such a big date range, and just drill into, if it's just like a monthly payment received report, you might want to just do the date range of just the month you're in rather than the whole year, as an example.
Okay, thanks, David. That's all the questions that we've had come in. So I think that will bring us to the end of today's webinar. Oh, sorry, we've got one more. Is there a way to get a report of hours spent in DGL?
The best report I could probably maybe recommend for that would be if they click on the miscellaneous menu. Now, this report will probably only be widely available to more what we class as super users or high-end users that have got access to this. But the best report you could probably run for that is the miscellaneous report. If you go down to miscellaneous reports, and then you've got what we class as the audit trail reports. And this will manage actions within the system for all users. So it literally is a bit like Big Brother. Anything you do within the system will be tracked. But within here, for example, you can see there is an action of log on. And again, it's done by date range. And these reports can be quite big because it's tracking all user activity and what they're doing. If I click on the plus action next to log on, you can see when users have logged on. And if you click on the plus action next to log off, you can see when they've logged off. Now, the only caveat I'll kind of put with this, if this is something maybe you're looking to use as, for a user, or just tracking if they've logged on or not, if they are clicking what we class as the little cross button at the top here, which we recommend you don't do, it won't always show an action of logging off. So it might look like they're logged on, but they look like they've never logged off. What they should always, or what we always encourage all users to do, is to make sure they always go into that quit menu, exit, and then clicking yes to end the hosted session, because that will then log in Practice Manager that you have actually logged off the system. Whereas if you do click that little cross at the top here, it's something we don't recommend you do. That just disconnects your session. So again, also if you have got work open you haven't saved, if you click that disconnected option, you are at risk at losing that work because it won't have been saved maybe through file save in Word, things like that. So that's just one little caveat just to put with that question.
Cool, that's great. And we got one more question from Lisa. Is there a way to ask follow-up questions on this webinar if we go away and try things and then have queries? I suppose, Lisa, we're going to be aiming to do one of these webinars once a month, and we'll also be sharing them on our social media channels. So whether you want to keep track of those questions that you have and then pose them to us on a later session, or you can use the comment section on our social medias to follow up with us. I'll be keeping an eye out on those social media channels, and anything that does come in I can send on to David, and we can look at maybe covering it in a blog post in the coming weeks. Another question coming in here, David, is there a way to export email addresses for patients easily?
So probably for that report, again, I'll click into the patient menu. If you go to patient reports, I'm just going to have a quick check just down here. I don't think there is one down there. So yeah, so if you go to patient reports, if you go into that patient analysis report, and again, I've already done it earlier, but if you click on that show hide option, if it isn't in your columns already, just go to that show hide, then customize and drag that email column in to the report. And then what you can then do is run your patients added between a certain date range, and then you can then export that report to Excel, XML, or CSV from there. So that would then record all the patient name it relates to, and then the email address that they've got registered with you.
Cool. Question from Dorothy. David, can we use the report builder for research purposes, as in to see how many patients have undergone a specific procedure, for instance?
So again, for that report, I would probably but there's already maybe a pre-built report for this in Practice Manager you can just tweak. So again, rather than going to the effort of creating a report builder, for this one, there's probably maybe a report you can do that with already. It depends if you're doing invoicing through Practice Manager or not. If you're doing invoicing through Practice Manager, go to the billing menu, billing reports. If you go to your operations procedures analysis report, again, put your start and end date. So if you're looking to do it between, if it's been a 12-month period or a 2-month period, or how many period did we want to make it between? If I just do include all dates, for example. So let's just say, for example, if I want to see a specific operation code, I'm guessing you're looking to drill down into. If that was the case, if you click on the little operation code filter box in this report, you can then select it by a specific operation. So if I click on, say, C1700, that will show me all those operations that have been recorded within Practice Manager for whatever date range, however many patients it's for. They might have had the same operation twice. It would show an entry for that as well. And then again, once you've drilled down into that, you can then export that to Excel from there going forward. If you don't use the billing option with them or the invoicing option within Practice Manager, you can do it from the list menu. And then I'm guessing if it's an operation, you'd be recording it in the theatre screens. So you'd go to theatre analysis. Let's just close out of that. So you go to list, reports, theatre analysis. Again, put your date ranges in. So if I just did include all dates, for example. And then again, you can filter it by a specific code here, and then just select the code you want, and that will filter it by that operation. You're looking to see how many have been done and what patients have had that, and then export that to Excel if you needed to.
Cool. Thanks, David. I think that's it. So we'd like to thank everyone for attending, and make sure to keep an eye out for the recording of this session. If you feel like any colleagues or anyone else would be interested in this, please do feel free to share it with them. And we'll be sharing the recording of this on all of our channels in the coming days. Next session will take place on the 7th of May, and we will be covering layouts. So we hope to see you all on that one. That's it for me. Bye everyone, and thanks, David. Hope everyone has a great weekend.
Oh, yeah, thank you all for joining as well. Thank you very much.
Bye guys.